So then I would just introduce the other speaker, Vidha Saumya. She will give a talk, and it's very interesting that you actually ended up with if I understood, the video is basically cooking rice.
Sort
of. But still, I would, because Vidha will actually talk about rice is give a talk that is entitled "Rice is Nice, Hospitality Recalled in a Grain." And she will talk about process of cooking and eating rice, but also like how can this be used within the dialogue of care. Vidha is an artist poet based in Helsinki, and one of the core interests of her practice is actually this idea of heimat, or homeland. And I think maybe you actually mentioned something similar, as you said, that is the same in Turkish, Persian language. So I found it interesting, like also this kind of line that is connected. And Vidha actually studied art and art theory in Mumbai, Bengaluru, Lahore, and Helsinki. And she has exhibited across North Europe and India. So Vidha, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really, really excited to be here. And Merve, your talk was just so amazing. I think it just painted like such a great landscape of an understanding, and also different ways, literally, you know, to sort of enter, and these analogies that you put forward of just these open dialogues and spaces of sit. I mean, it was just brilliant. So thank you so much. Really looking forward to continuing from there. So yeah, I will just begin now. So for me, I've been living now in Helsinki for a few years, and this is I have written down what I'm going to be talking about, and written it in this kind of a essay form, but also includes some poems. And I will start reading it now. Rice is nice, hospitality recalled in a grain. Rice is a perfect example of how the weight loss industry, with the aid of research and marketing tools, brainwashes entire cultures into believing that the food that they have always eaten is harming them. My name is Vidha Saumya. I am an artist poet living in Helsinki. For the past 5 years, I have leaned on food practices as support to help me settle into a new city, find my ground, understand cultures that are different from mine, and pursue the love for food and the communities that it can generate. Jenny Holzer, an artist, says, "Put food out in the same place every day and talk to the people who come to eat and organize them." In February 2016, Ali and I hosted the first Thursday night dinner in the Art House. Art House was the building assigned to the Department of Visual Culture and Contemporary Art, a master's program at Aalto University, Helsinki. The challenge was simple: how many people could eat in 10 euros? Thereon, it continued to become a weekly event, a gathering and multitude of conversations. As the dinners grew in scale, from the quantity of food to the number of people eating this food, the Art House kitchen evolved proportionately. The kitchen doubled up as a dining space, assignments table, dance floor, research site, and a collaborated island of many cultures. To describe a scene that would frequently unfold at the dinner table was that after everyone was seated, A few extra chairs would be kept at either ends of the table for those who would trickle in later to join at the dinner. Invariably, some would join just as the dinner was getting over. Before they could even sit, empty plates would be passed around and other diners would quickly put forward an untouched portion of their food on that plate. No matter how little you have, there is always someone who has less than you, and what is food if not a broken morsel or a collective soup? The art house is no longer used as university premises. As a way to continue this low threshold eating together, I now cook a monthly dinner at the Museum of Impossible Forms in Kontula, a space co-founded by a collective of artists, curators, philosophers, and pedagogues that has transformed in the last 2 years into a para-institution consisting of 15 members. Museum of Impossible Forms is a cultural center located in Kontula, East Helsinki, founded in 2017 as an anti-racist and queer feminist project, a heterogeneous space, and as an experimental and migrant form of expression. Museum monthly dinners pursue similar ideas. How can spaces be inhabited for the purposes of eating, conversing, and sharing? The table holds the possibility of opening up difficult conversations because it takes space for an individual whilst offering emotional support through food. The spectrum of food practices and cooking are essential for me. Gathering ingredients, thinking about what to cook, and finding ways in which this food can be shared satisfies me. But more than that, these processes facilitate ways of working with hands, organizing, planning, thinking about cause and effect, and even ways of holding a conversation. In the next 15 minutes, I want to offer you a story journeyed through rice. Rice as a grain and as a symbol of perceived food practice is a useful allegory to think about hospitality, what it encompasses as a primary food in several parts of the world, and what it has come to mean through a capitalist food industry. The popular notion that rice is carbohydrates and starch only is just as false as saying global warming does not affect everybody. Anybody who is even slightly interested in food knows that no food is just one element. I want to use this parable to think about hospitality. Is hospitality merely a service, or is it a tributary flowing into the larger stream of care? I attempt answers to these questions through the following 3 texts. When the lockdown began in Finland, the open racks in the bakery section of the supermarket were the first to go empty as a measure to avoid open food and common touching. From the myriad pullas, breads, and quiches, what I missed terribly was the Karelian pie. Karelian pies have a long history. They are an iconic food from Finland. Simply told, they are a rye crust pie with a porridge filling, typically made from barley and now more commonly with rice. It is enjoyed best when made by a grandmother and eaten with egg butter. On the infrequent trips to the supermarket, I would longingly look at the empty racks and comment, "No two are the same." It has only been 2 weeks since they stopped stocking Karelian pies at the supermarket. Karelian pies, like friendships and solidarity, taken for granted till they are gone. Even though our homelands are split by war, recipes migrate, adapt in unlikely ways. nourish generations, make their own space. Non-perishables have a newfound meaning now. Rye, oats, barley, we're all under a lockdown. I have a Karelian pie pin that I wear often. Start with boiling water over medium heat. Add puro risi and cook for 5 minutes. Add butter with milk and reduce to low heat. For now, I will make peace with just this. I like rice. I like eating rice. I can eat rice for breakfast, lunch, dinner, as an evening snack, as a midnight snack, and as dessert. What I like about rice is its openness and adaptability, how its grains accept other ingredients, flavors, accompaniments. And so, a pot of rice to me is like a city that opposes different ways of being. I live in Helsinki these days and have admitted to myself that it is a city that too has my heart. When the lockdown was announced in Helsinki, I first checked if there was enough rice in the house. Although there wasn't more than a week's supply, I felt uninclined to stock up. I decided to make do with what I had, hoping to expand my cooking to include other non-perishables. Each time I entered the kitchen, I thought about rice longingly, like lovers separated in Bollywood films, singing, "Hum bane, tum bane, ek dooje ke liye." We are made for each other. And just as gaslighting relatives tell you how horrible your lover is, Google too started throwing up rice alternatives at me. My heart was slowly breaking. The more I tried to find nice things about rice, the more I found it maligned into categories such as carbohydrates and starch, going even to the extent of calling it white poison. Such contemptuous reading of a food grain that holds deep cultural significance was seeming to me like common sense being clawed at by capitalist food industry that will make a profit out of our ignorance and our desire to follow trends. To me, rice is comfort. It gives me energy. It keeps me full. It is easy to digest. It is rich in prebiotics and helps the probiotics to maintain a healthy gut. It steadies my sugar. It helps me sleep better. It's great for my skin. It's local in its availability and global in its versatility. Once during a dinner, Paula had made black beans and rice. When making rice, she first fried sliced garlic in oil, to which she added rice and water. Martina told us how when she misses food from home, she cooks the finished risi puro rice with fried garlic. Simple forms bring joy. Rice prepared in its simplest form, by boiling it in water, gives me the feeling of being at home, a feeling of care enveloping me. In current times, my feelings for rice could be a projection of my desire to be touched, held, or simply to feel the warmth of another person. Since we can still be together through this great project online, I want to share with you some rice recipes. These recipes are unique in a way that they require few ingredients. The first recipe, bhat. Wash 1 cup of rice and soak for 10 minutes. Cook in 2 cups of boiling water on a medium to high heat for 5 minutes. Turn down the heat to low and cook for 12 minutes with a lid. To eat, take cooked rice out in a bowl or a dish. Sprinkle salt and pepper to taste. Drizzle a teaspoon of ghee. Mix well and eat. Recipe 2, sarson tel bhat. Sarson tel is mustard oil. At 4 in the afternoon, when hunger peaks again, take the cooked rice in a bowl or a dish. It will be at room temperature now. Perfect for this recipe. To eat, take rice in a bowl or a dish, sprinkle salt to taste, drizzle a teaspoon of mustard oil, add chopped green chilies, chopped onions, some kind of a pickle, mix well with hand and eat. Recipe 3, tisi bhat. Take the cooked rice in a bowl or a dish, sprinkle salt to taste, drizzle a teaspoon of mustard oil, add green chilies, chopped onions, achar. Add roasted flax seeds powder, which is called tisi. And tisi is the cake that remains after oil has been taken out of flax seeds. Recipe 4, Rebana's dessert as meal. Rebana showed me this recipe in Bangalore. Consume only in small quantity. Mash a banana with yogurt, mix rice, add sugar or jaggery to taste. Recipe 5, Margila bhat. Overcook rice in extra water and boil till the grain expands and splits, making the water thick and soupy. Add salt to taste. Add a pinch of sugar. An excellent base for a variety of toppings and seasonings. Add a knob of butter or kimchi or fried onions or all of them. Tastes great with boiled peanuts. So a week after vowing to eat rice sparingly, I succumbed to my love for rice and stocked up to last a few more weeks. It is a difficult time now. I remember an afternoon from many years ago at my grandmother's village called Basantpur in Bihar. There was a lady called Mithila Wali from Mithila who used to work in the fields and on her way back would drop by at my grandparents' home to help in the household chores. My amma would pay her in the form of food grains, rice, lentils, wheat. One such afternoon, Amma was pouring a kilo of rice into the opened up pleats of her sari, and a few grains of rice fell on the mud ground. Mithila Wali picked up each grain, lovingly tucking into the potli made from her sari, that would get neatly tucked around her stomach. It remains a vivid memory. Even today, when a grain of rice, cooked or uncooked, falls away from the pot or the container, I pick it up and put it back. They feel to me like the last words of lovers that could not unite. That afternoon is inextricably tied to my understanding of food and what it means to people. How there is an abundance of it in the world, and yet there is a large population that are disallowed to access it. In a world that is growing increasingly unfeeling, make yourself a pot of rice to find in its well-cooked grain the sweetness of care. I found a completely new kind of relationship with food when I moved to Helsinki. I craved for what I took for granted and have found in abundance that which existed only in food programs for me. Isn't food so emblematic of care, of acceptance? Sometimes it is emblematic of risk and ignorance too, like the 300 kilos of fruit and vegetable that are opened and sent into a large grinder at JFK Airport every day. The next poem and the last text is a poem called Tahdig. Tahdig is a recipe from Iran. The word tahdig is made of two words, tah and dig. Tah means the bottom and dig is the pot in which the rice is cooked. So tahdig literally means bottom of the pot. In the following poem, tahdig refers to the pan-fried layer of crust at the bottom of the rice pot. Push your tongue to the roof of your mouth, and you will instantly stop crying. The human body produces 3 kinds of tears: oily layer over eyeball, a reflex flush, and emotional shedding. And we deliberately mix up reasons when someone asks, "What happened?" Emotional tears are higher. They're higher in protein, taking longer to travel from eyes to cheek. They signal even without a witness in our own soothing embrace before ending in numb dryness. I first cried in Finland when I ate tahdeg. F made it in their Puotila home. How can fluffy steaming rice with a crispy crust at the bottom of a pan, fragrant with saffron, strewn over with plump zeresh, fried in butter, cause such a stir? Thank you.
So I can do the clapping.
Thank you, Merve. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this, Vidha. It was really wonderful. I have to ask first if somebody has immediate, or is somebody already has a question or a comment they want to share. You're very much welcome to. Okay. Anyway, I think it's really wonderful how you intertwined all these aspects. It's really like you gave a lot of food for thoughts, actually. And and I really like the way how you combine from going into very concrete aspect of recipe to like your kind of personal understanding or experience with the rice, and then going back and forth into Indian, but also like Finnish context. And this is actually also something I would like to ask you. So how do you see this kind of dialogue that you are kind of establishing, especially like being yourself a migrant, and then how does the food coming as that kind of tool for this communication, especially having also this experience to do this within the context of the Museum of Impossible Forms, but also like how do you kind of see it to go into different kind of ways? For me, it's super interesting that you kind of also transfer it into poetry. So
yeah, like for example, writing poetry really becomes, I think, a medium of bringing all these aspects together. But I think because I have such an emotional association with food, and which is why also, like when Merve was talking about their practice, if to me it were like these moments of being able to finally articulate what is it that I'm doing. So actually Merve explained what I'm doing in her presentation, but I think it starts with first a curiosity, like how is a certain population in a given city or a place finding ways of nourishment, finding ways of sustaining itself, and how is, for example, a demand and supply chain working. Where is, like for example, Finland and especially Helsinki and Turku, the 2 main cities, boasts of shops that have food coming, ingredients that belong, like say, to a lot of Arabic cuisine or Persian cuisine, Iranian food. I mean, from all over, and then, I often get like so excited picking up like an ingredient, and then it's manufactured, say, in Sweden, or it's manufactured in like some European country, and it makes me think, okay, so who are these people who have gone to some place, perhaps settled there for such a long time, felt that there is a larger population seeking these kind of ingredients, and therefore we must now set up a factory to procure and to make these and further export it, you know. So and then in a way it's like, okay, you can simply go to a shop and seek an ingredient. I mean, zereshk is something, for example, in Bombay, because that's where I've lived for most part of my life, and there used to be an Irani cafe where it was kind of fabled, and, you know, like these stories told that these zereshk berries fly in like every 15 days from Iran, and we used to, you know, kind of go there once in 2 months to like eat this berry pulao. And it used to really feel like there were rubies, or, you know, you just had this kind of associative, like aspirational association to it and being able to eat it. And then over here, you have packets and packets of them available. And, you know, I put it in everything and, you know, kind of feel so elated and feel so wonderful about it. So I think it's also this connection. It's probably like what Merve, you said, you know, like a vocabulary. Suddenly a certain vocabulary becomes your everyday language. Like to put zereshk in food is no longer a big deal. It's no longer just a once in 2 months trip to, you know, to Cafe Britannia to eat berry pulao, but it is something that I can add to almost anything. So, or, you know, it's in my grocery list, for example. So it's, I really kind of look, therefore, at food really as an expansion of the vocabulary through which I can think, and how recipes really help us navigate not just flavors, but also, you know, ways of handling, really, if one is thinking that one cooks also with hands. So how do you hold a certain ingredient, and how that ingredient holds something else? Like, for example, again, something as simple as dolmas, which again is something I had eaten once at a Greek restaurant in Goa and it was so expensive, but it just felt like, what is this? You know, what is this thing? Like, how is it even possible to make something like this? You know, to first imagine like a grape leaf that has been brined, and then in that you put all this rice, and like, it was just mind-boggling. It was like entering the universe, you know, in that sense. And then over here, it is available in all kinds of forms, from, you know, in a can to in an open store, to you have friends who are making it at home. So yeah, to kind of start thinking, therefore, also of what we hold through these particular ingredients. I think that is more or less how I think of the journey with food as well.
Thank you, Vidha. I wonder if somebody else has a comment or a question for Vidha. Not really? Okay.